Huh. Well, welcome to the Packaging School show. We got a package from Amazon and there's glitter all over it. How in the world did that happen? Oh yeah, I did it. And here's why I did it. Because I want you to think of viruses and germs and things like that as glitter. If you've ever received a birthday card in the mail and someone lovingly filled it with glitter, you know that stuff just like shows up everywhere. It's all over your hands, it's on your clothes, it's in your bathtub. It's everywhere. Even when you wash your hands, sometimes it takes one or two washings to get all the glitter off of your hands. So I did that just as a visual representation for you to think of germs that way. So wash your hands diligently because that stuff likes to cling to you. But you don't have to take my word for it. Dr. Acheson, thank you so much for taking time to talk with me today. Now, when we talk about COVID, you certainly are well versed on the subject. You have an amazing background. You're the founder and CEO of the Acheson Group, also known as TAG. Right. You're intimately familiar with the USDA, the FDA, and I'm sure you've taken a temperature or two in your time.
Just a few. Right.
So, what concerns do you feel like are on the minds of consumers as it relates to food and food packaging?
That's a really good question. And I think that the main concerns that consumers have is just they don't know. We have some science about the way this virus is behaving. We've got some science about how long it will survive, and will it survive in food? Will it infect you via food? Can you get it off packaging? On the one hand, we're saying wash your hands if you touch a surface, and that would include packaging. It would include a cardboard box, anything. Mm-hmm. If you touch a surface and then you touch your nose or your mouth or your eyes, you could transfer the virus from the surface to your face and get infected. That's absolutely true. So in that sense, any packaging one should consider as potentially got virus on it, because you don't know where it's been unless it's been sitting in your car or your garage for the last week. So our practical advice is don't take the risk. If you've touched something that you don't know the history of for the last several days, and it's been sitting in your house and it's perfectly safe, wash your hands before you do anything else. It's just a prudent, wise thing to do, irrespective of what it is, whether it's food packaging or cardboard box with anything in it. Doesn't matter.
Right. I think that's very that's calming advice, honestly, because COVID-19 certainly is nasty, but yeah. It's kind of the same advice that you would tell someone anyway, like wash your hands, don't touch your face. Because in the interview I read, you said something like, it's not like this virus is sitting and waiting to jump on your face. It's not going to leap into your nose. Yeah. Just wash your hands and keep your fingers away from your face.
No, you're right. I mean, the virus is not going to multiply on a surface. The only time the virus is going to multiply is when it gets inside a cell, a human cell or maybe in an animal cell. I mean, we don't know a whole lot about what it's doing in animals, but it has to get inside a living organism, like a mammal of some kind, for it to multiply and to grow. So when it's sitting on a surface, it isn't going to leap off the surface. You're right. It isn't going to grow on the surface. I mean, we're all very familiar in the food world of, what does salmonella do? What does listeria do? It's like, oh, well, if you don't keep things at the right temperature, the bugs will grow. Mm-hmm. This doesn't do that. It's pretty wimpy. You just leave it on the surface, it's going to fizzle out, and it's going to go away in a couple of days. But you're right. I mean, the fundamental message to everybody, whether you're in the food industry or what you are, is this is a person-to-person transmission thing. So somebody puts it on a surface, you touch that surface, wash your hands. That's the whole point of social distancing as well, in terms of not spreading it from a person to a person, through a cough or a sneeze, or just simply talking to somebody.
Now, along those lines, again, that's very straightforward. It doesn't sound like earth-shattering advice. It sounds like very practical advice that has been around. How does that translate into like packaging suppliers? Are there some tips or approaches that they can take when they're? I mean, because there's supply chains all around the world. There are packages going across the ocean now, across the country.
Right.
Are there a few high-level best practices that packaging suppliers can be aware of?
Well, you're gonna hate me here, Kevin, because I'm gonna beat the same old drum. You know, it's like somebody. I was doing a webinar earlier today, and somebody said to me, "Well, if we get a package, cardboard package, and it was in the context of a facility, a plant, um, should we leave it on the receiving dock for 3 days to let the virus die?" And I said, "Well, sure, you can do that, but when you come and handle it, how do you know that the person who moved it 3 feet across the packaging dock didn't have coronavirus on their hands? They may be perfectly well, but they could be asymptomatic.
Mm-hmm.
They may have coughed into their hands, just clearing their throat. They got virus, they put it on the package. And you're thinking, well, it sat there for 3 days, as well as the 6 months on the ship from wherever it came from. I'm fine." No, you're not. The whole point is you don't know when it got contaminated. Was it 3 weeks ago? You're fine. Was it 5 minutes ago? You don't know.
Yes.
When you touch those things, the special precautions, here I go again, wash your hands before you touch your face. I mean, it really is, you're right. In the essence, it's simplicity that is shutting this virus down.
Do you think, obviously there are best practices that companies try to handle? They try, if somebody's sick, they tell them to go home. That happened before COVID-19. But do you feel like the industry was prepared for something like this, or is it just there's so much talk, so much news that everybody thinks that that it is going to jump off surfaces, or it's going to burn down buildings, or it's going to steal your credit card information?
Well, we were all unprepared for this, Kevin. I mean, I don't think anybody, if they're honest with themselves, could say, "Oh yeah, we were prepared for that." I mean, there have been pandemic what ifs studies done, and people say, "Well, what if we got a pandemic? What would we do?" And it's like an academic study, and you don't have to be watching the news for 5 minutes before somebody says, "Oh, well, you did a study and you should have ordered those 50,000 ventilators because somebody told you."
Right.
And you're looking at a finite budget and say, "Well, am I going to stick 50,000 ventilators in mothballs for the next 50 years, hoping?"
Right.
Of course not.
Right.
So, it's so easy when we look backwards and say, "Oh yeah, we should have done things differently." I think as an industry, as a society, we're actually handling this remarkably well. Yes, there's a lot of worried people. I mean, the economics of what's happening are the likes of which we've never seen. And but everybody in the food industry, the packaging industry, pretty much is part of critical infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
So there is maintenance of that flow with its challenges. But were we prepared? No. Are we working our way through it effectively? All things considered, yeah. I mean, I really think we are. Through sharing information, through understanding what's going on. I think the other key message here on that note is every day we learn something new about this virus. If you remember when it first broke, the media or the message was, "Oh, it's just like influenza."
Mm-hmm.
And no, it's not. It's not behaving like influenza. Yes, it causes a respiratory type illness. But aside from that, it behaves in quite a bit of different ways in terms of its infectivity during asymptomatic time. I.e., you've got the virus, but you don't know it, and you're capable of spreading it. So it really isn't acting like influenza. It's doing different things.
Well, again, this is probably beating that same drum, but I feel like this is important information. Are there words that you can offer our viewers, people, not just in the packaging industry, but people that are at home who get packages? Amazon trucks are still rolling around, the Postal Service is still rolling around. Is there practical advice that you can offer them to just kind of ease some anxiety when a package shows up on their door?
Right.
What's practical advice for us now as we're engaging more in e-commerce and we're receiving packages at home?
No, that's a really good question. And I think if you're confident that what you've been doing for yourself has given you a high level of safety. I mean, personally, I haven't been anywhere other than the yard for the last 2.5 weeks. So I'm pretty confident that we don't have coronavirus lurking around in our home.
Right.
But we get packages almost daily from somebody, and you then have a number of options. You can leave it sitting around. Obviously, if it's got perishable goods in it, you're not going to do that. If you've got an antimicrobial spray it. I mean, it's only going to do a little extra good. Leave that antimicrobial spray on for a little bit, so it's going to have a chance to knock down any virus, should there be any on it. And you basically don't know, you can't see it. And then when you come to handle the package, do as we've been saying. Make sure that when you've handled it and you open it, you deal with the contents the same way. And you wash your hands before you touch anything else or before you do anything else. So we're back to those simple instructions of what to do. But the challenge is just remembering to do it. It's so not in our culture to think everything we touch, I hate to say it, but could have a deadly virus on it. I mean, if you're immune susceptible or you're high risk, it is a deadly virus. We're not messing about with this thing.
Right.
And as a culture, we're not attuned to thinking that way at all.
Yeah.
And so it is a cultural shift.
It is, and I think also along the lines of a cultural shift, we're so used to feeling freedom, the freedom to do what we want, and I feel like that's a lot of the reasons that there have been a lot of these stay-at-home orders and the issuances from local authorities to stay home, because people are like, nah, I'll be fine. I want to go to the store. I want to go to Target, or I want to go wherever. And
right.
I think part of the biggest sting is we feel like our freedom is being infringed upon, when really it just comes down to common sense. Don't hang out with people. And everything you've just been talking about. I even heard someone describe it as think of it as glitter. If somebody has ever sent you a birthday card and they've put glitter in the envelope, you open it and it is everywhere.
Everywhere.
And it's in your laundry, it's in your mouth, it's in the bathtub. You don't even know how it got there. It's everywhere. So
yeah, just to sort of build off of that, this virus is not a strong bug. It doesn't. Some of the viruses we deal with that we hear about in the news, like norovirus, which was kind of the original cruise ship virus that causes diarrhea and vomiting.
Right.
That is a tough little virus. It's still a virus. It isn't going to grow sitting on a surface. But man, does it can hang around for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks.
Wow.
This virus doesn't do that. It sort of curls up and dies fairly quickly, certainly relative to norovirus. But you're right. It's this concept of social distancing, of staying home. It's a complete antithesis to what we've grown up with forever. So let's learn from this, so that when we get another, and if we look back at history, Kevin, we've had SARS, we had this is the 5th or 6th coronavirus that's emerged in the last decade or so. None of them have been nearly as bad as this. But we'll get another. This isn't the last time with global travel and global movement that this is going to happen. And while we need to survive this one and get out the other side, we absolutely need to reflect on what have we learned from this? What should we do differently as a society to manage the emergence of another one of these?
Well, those are good words, sobering, calming, and true words. And I just want to thank you so much for your time. Thanks for coming in from your beautiful outdoors there around your house. I can't even imagine. I imagine you looking out your window and seeing elk and grizzly bear and trout and salmon, just all in one field of vision there.
I wish I could get outside and do that, but sadly, there's a lot of people that want to talk and get help. So I'm very happy to be part of this conversation. Thank you for inviting me.
Okay, well, you enjoy the rest of your day, and you and your family stay safe, and hope to talk to you sometime soon.
Absolutely, you too.
Thank you. So there you have it, folks. That's pretty common sense, straightforward advice from Dr. Acheson. just wash your hands. If you've touched something, wash your hands. If you come into contact with something else, wash your hands. It's that simple, and it's what we've been saying this whole time. Keep calm, carry on, and wash your hands. I'm going to.